Hey everybody! Welcome to Friday the 13th, the series. I'm your producer, Robert.
And I'm your host, Hill Street.
And after a complete, spoiler-filled recap of the episode, we are going to discuss the show you either just learned existed or always wondered how it existed. We promise the answers will be few and far between because we're just here to have some goofity fun exploring a show that, despite or possibly even because of its faults, isn't good and isn't so bad it's good, but is still somehow oddly charming. Let's dive in, shall we? Welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 of our episode 9 review, so if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, go do that, because this ain't gonna make a lick of sense without it. In just a minute, we're gonna finish recapping episode 9, then we'll discuss the episode, and I'll take us way too far down the rabbit hole exploring the filmographies of this cast. Finally, Hill Street and I will relate anecdotes of stumbling across horror media on TV as kids. Hill Street, when you're ready, action.
Hey, a bandage on Ryan's head. Nice continuity show. We don't know how Mickey's escapade audition went, but I see she landed a gig playing guitar in Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love video. You know, the fact Lloyd still doesn't believe in magic, and why should he, makes him seem all the more reasonable as he attempts to talk Mickey out of a life in which it's not strange to crack jokes after watching a psychopath get turned into human mulch. But no. Despite contributing absolutely nothing to this episode's thrilling climax, Mickey is now all about the mission. Mickey, I'm starting to wonder if you just thrive on drama. If your partner takes a strong anti-human sausage stance, are you just compelled to take pro? Hey, more continuity. With a previous episode even. While putting down Ryan, Lloyd mentions he's a commercial art dropout. Well, that explains him painting an album cover of Lady Di to make her look older back in episode 4. Guess we can close the books on that one. Wait, even more continuity. Ryan is wearing an Illinois State University sweater. He sure wants people to know which school he dropped out of. And I think he used those art skills to make the Welcome Home Mickey banner that wins her back after their 2-second falling out following Lloyd's departure. To close, Mickey gets the best freeze frame of the series so far. Man, I want to believe someone watched this final 2-minute segment while flipping channels and thought, this show seems like a pretty decent light romantic drama. I do believe I'll tune in next week. And just had their reality torn apart. For God knows what reason, the credits play over a blurry still image of the whirling mulcher blades that reads as modern art. Not a shot of the mulcher itself, so, again, our hypothetical viewer would end the show blissfully unaware. Never noticed this before, but the credits use a font in which the dot on the lowercase letter I touches the stem, so they look like someone accidentally typed a lowercase letter L. Hey, maybe Ryan's last name was actually supposed to be Di-Lion, and Lloyd's Lyoid. Probably the second hardest novelty license plate to keep stocked, right after Bort.
And cut.
Cool.
I just want to dive in with my big takeaway from this episode.
You okay?
It is so weird to me. In an episode that is all about Mickey proving her value to Curious Goods, to her fiancé Lloyd, she adds nothing to the proceedings.
Yeah.
And in fact, in the moment when she can rise up and shine, she literally asks Lloyd to solve the problem for her.
Do you think she did that to try to show him what they do?
No.
Okay, I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying.
Well played. And let me be clear, I'm not saying Mickey is always useless. In fact, more often than not, I think she's more valuable than Ryan. And I still contend, of course, that Jack Marshak is really the captain of this ship.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point was to prove to Lloyd why it's important that she continues to be with Curious Goods and not him.
Right.
And she added nothing. She didn't even solve a clue, much less take down the villain at the end.
Right.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, absolutely.
Did you notice anything that I missed?
No, not at all. And it just goes to show how this show is not super well thought out a lot of the time. Like, they just miss the mark so often. There's so much interesting and good and fun and clever, and then there's so much that it's like, how do you guys not have someone who oversees all of this? How do you not have an editor? How do you not have someone in the room that's like, wait a second? It is, an excellent point that you're making. And they came into the episode with Lloyd not believing anything, and they left the episode with Lloyd not believing anything, and we really didn't give him a reason to. There was no real point made there.
No, he was literally moments from seeing Vita move on her own, and it doesn't happen.
I know.
How excited were you for that callback?
The Vita thing? Oh yeah, I loved it. I'm just glad that they did a callback because they have so many opportunities for callbacks that they just don't take.
Yeah, agreed.
And it's always disappointing to me.
Yeah, it's nice to see them at least establishing some continuity and lore for the show.
Yeah, I mean, I love when shows do callbacks, period. I always think that it just makes a show feel so much more full and real when they can tie things together. My favorite show of all time, 6 Feet Under, is the best show at callbacks, period. They will tie something from season 1 to season 5, and I just think it just makes the show, the writing, so much better. So having Vita there was really nice, and the little joke, oh, is she gonna tear my throat out, was very cute.
Yeah, some nice self-referential humor there.
Yeah, but yeah, this felt like it was Mickey's episode to shine because Lloyd's there, she's trying to prove herself, and they just did nothing to do that. So that was really, really goofy and weird.
What's your favorite callback or established lore in Supernatural?
Oh, phew. I mean, probably, as goofy as it sounds, my favorite one is the Carry On Wayward Son song, because they carry that right through to the last episode.
No, that's not goofy at all. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, they really use it brilliantly throughout the show. So from the second season, they don't use that song in the first season. They may not have had the budget to pay for the rights.
Really? That wasn't a part of the first season?
Starts with the second season.
Well, I am gobsmacked.
Yeah. They use it as their like season finale song, starting with the second season, and it carries all the way through to the last season. But they use it a few times in the show in clever ways. Like there's a supernatural musical episode, which is actually one of my favorite episodes. It's hilarious and brilliant and actually very touching.
Is that the one where the high school is putting on a musical about them?
Yes. And I love it. It's a great episode. It's funny and entertaining and clever and very touching. It actually makes me cry at one point. It's when they're all singing Carry On Wayward Son, and they do it in this like beautiful, sweet, tinkly piano way. And Sam and Dean are like watching them, and they look really sad watching them because they're telling their story and how they've had such a hard life. And I love that they use it there. And then in the final episode, they use it a few times, and it's made me cry the whole time. So that is probably my favorite callback that show does. And they do a lot. They try to carry their storyline well, and they do callbacks, but that song it makes me emotional every time. It's great.
Does it come back like once a season?
Typically once a season. There's a few exceptions like the musical episode or something like that where they'll throw it in extra, but usually once a season.
And what's the lore around it? Was it like their dad's favorite song or something?
They don't ever really say where it comes from. They just started using it as their season finale song. And then like whenever it's playing somewhere, they'll say to each other like, I love this song.
Bit of a tangent, but speaking of episodes in which the characters see their own story being told, there are a few examples I can think of, including Game of Thrones and Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original animated version. Avatar: The Last Airbender is very widely regarded as being excellent. Game of Thrones obviously started very strong, and I think it's widely felt that it's tapered off at the end. But at least for most of its run, it was very well regarded. And then Supernatural as well. What I'm saying is, of the 3 examples I can think of that do that, all 3 shows were at least well regarded for most of their run, if not their whole run. Can you think of any other examples of shows you know of that have done that?
There might be parts of Smallville, maybe. Yeah, other than that, I don't... Nothing off the top of my head, because there has to be some kind of like supernatural element to it, I feel like.
It's helpful, yeah. There kind of have to be epic events.
Right.
Did you get a chance to go back and review before watching this episode? Did you determine, was Opera Glasses living on an estate that she was currently turning into a park?
I think so. That's the most sense I can make out of it. It's very vague. It's very vague, but that's what I assume is happening with the weird way that they presented it. That's what I took away from it, but also you had kind of put that idea into my head when I went back and looked at it, so I was like, yep, that tracks.
Oh, yeah. I did frame it.
You did.
I did use some mental jujitsu there. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
The anchoring effect. Darn it. Didn't even mean to use it. But it's a real thing. Try not thinking of an elephant, Hill Street. Gotcha. In watching this show, it's become apparent to me just how much the show suffers as a result of not having real commercial breaks.
Say that again?
The fact that we watch these online and it doesn't have the advantage of having commercials between its commercial breaks is not doing the show any favors.
Yeah.
They always end with some insane climax, and then they follow it up with this sort of subdued resolution that's almost like funny and jokey and everything. And it's like seconds ago in our time, without the benefit of a commercial in which someone in a shower is singing about becoming zestfully clean or an old woman is asking, where's the beef?
I know.
We fade to black, we fade back up, and suddenly we went from an old woman being assaulted, almost murdered, a man getting chopped up alive in a haunted mulcher, to them just cracking jokes and having this quiet domestic scene of Lloyd determining whether or not he can stick around with Mickey. And it's just such tonal whiplash.
I know, and I think that's so weird because I'm like, why would you film it that way? Like, how do you not have awareness? Because the commercial isn't there when you're filming it. So you think that you would just film it straight through and then maybe add a little bit of like building music where the commercial break is going to be? Like, why would you film it like, okay, look panicked, look like you're about to stab her. Okay, cut. We'll put a commercial break there. All right, let's go to you guys hanging out, having a good time. Like, how are you not aware that that's going to look so weird? Even with the commercial break, you think like this intense thing would be happening and you'd be watching it thinking like, oh my God, I can't wait for the show to come back to see what happens. And then, yeah, it looks so weird when you don't go back to that. Like, I'm used to commercial break things, them picking up exactly where you left off. So yes, it does look really, really stupid.
Yeah, or like back in the Magic episode, it's like, oh, a magician has just been impaled by 10 swords on stage and is leaking blood out the coffin. Cut to, oh, Ryan's being wrapped up in a chain and a straitjacket, and oh, he can't get out of it. It's wacky.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's such an oversight.
Yeah, just without the benefit of cutting away for a few minutes and giving us a chance to catch our breath.
Yeah.
We retain the information and we're left wondering things like, Lloyd just watched this assault happen and a man get mulched.
Right.
And he seems totally fine with it, let alone like police involvement.
Yeah.
We just hand wash away the fact that every week these characters get into a huge mess and then they're just able to move on with their lives, despite the fact that they just sow chaos wherever they go.
Yeah, I know. They make a lot of strange choices. That one struck me too.
I really think the show would benefit from having Lieutenant Fishbine act as the Commissioner Gordon to Mickey, Ryan, and Jack's Batman.
I like that idea, actually. I was about to make fun of you for bringing him up again because you're so stuck on him, but actually, that's a good idea.
He's a good egg, I tell you.
You're not wrong.
Oh, he's gruff on the outside, but he's a good man at Heart Hill Street. To simultaneously acknowledge the fact that they should be avoiding the police. Even if you did it in a very hand-wavy way, just acknowledging the fact that it would be a real issue, I think would be beneficial. But then even more if he was like a Commissioner Gordon.
Right.
Where he's technically working against them, but understands what they're doing and why it's valuable and can actually work with them and can kind of steer people away from them when he thinks what they're doing is for the greater good.
Yeah, I mean, Supernatural has one of those, like, kind of on and off. Sometimes, like, a cop that kind of helps them.
For a single episode, right? There's not a police figure or someone in law enforcement that's there through all of it, right?
Not through all of it. Sometimes, like, part of a season, there'll be one. Or, yeah, like, single episodes sometimes. There's, like, Sheriff Jody Mills who befriends them and helps them. Yeah, I do think that you're pointing out a good problem, though, with this show, which is that they are missing something like that. Another character that I feel like who should come in and out, who could help them. I think that would be nice. It would add another dynamic. It would help the whole thing make more sense.
Yeah, add another perspective.
Yeah.
Help ground it a little bit more.
I agree.
Speaking of the way that Supernatural handles things, how do you think Supernatural would have handled Mickey in this situation, trying to prove her value to Lloyd regarding her role at Curious Goods? Because that's a big part of Supernatural, right? You've always got Sam kind of questioning his role as a member of the team, and even as time went on, Dean as well, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that it would have gone one of two ways. Either they would have had her really trying and it would have failed and the episode would have ended with, okay, they still don't believe her, but obviously we're going to see this attempt happen again. And there would have been like a serious effort there, or they would have tried and finally by the end the point would have been proven. Either way, that would have been a huge plot point. Like, okay, this person's here, they don't believe him. Let's see all the effort this person puts into proving the point. And either it would have been a swing and a miss, and we would have seen, okay, we're going to revisit this at some point. Eventually, this person will see it for themselves and believe them. Or it would have been, let me try. Okay, finally the point's proven, they believe me. But it wouldn't have just been like, oh, I want you to believe me. Okay, well, I make no effort to make that happen. And then you're like, wait, what?
And Mickey would have definitely ended up putting down a circle of salt and firing a gun that shoots pure iron fillings.
Exactly.
As is their wont.
And her eyes would have gone black and she would have been possessed at one point. They would have done an exorcism.
I'm right. Because I know Sam and Dean so well and am so good at keeping them apart. a lesser man might become confused, but
Not you.
Sam was initially the character that was drawn into the life, second being the younger brother, and Dean as the older brother was a little bit more committed to the life, but over time also had love interests and things that possibly threatened to draw him away, and it's Sam that has to talk Dean into continuing to be a hunter.
Sort of. You kind of have that right. So Dean is the dedicated one who's the older brother, the hunter. He brings Sam back in, but Dean never really wants to leave the life.
Even when he has a love interest and someone that he wants to settle down with, he doesn't try to rope them into the life, correct?
No, he never tries to rope them in. As soon as he knows that Sam is back, he pretty much wants to be with Sam. I mean, at one point, yeah, he's kind of settled. I mean, I guess you kind of have a point because he settles down. When he thinks Sam is gone, he kind of settles down with Lisa.
Yeah, exactly. She even has a son, correct?
Yes.
I remember because I know this show and these characters, Hill Street.
Yes, you do. But I don't think it takes a lot of effort for Sam to get him to come back. I feel like Dean always is itching to be back in that life. At that point, Sam didn't even have his soul intact. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that Sam like really lured him back in too hard, but I don't know. I guess you can make an argument for that. You're pretty on track with what you're saying.
Because I know my supernatural characters.
Of course you do.
I mean, I just pointed out that Dean was the older brother.
Yeah.
Do you know how I remember that, Hill Street?
How's that?
It's because Jensen Ross Ackles, born March 1st, 1978, is roughly 4 years older than Jared Tristan Padalecki, born July 19th, 1982. So yes, Dean is the older brother both in real life and on the show.
Wow. You are good.
And that's a good mnemonic to use because really there are so many similarities between these two men that a lesser man might confuse them.
That makes sense.
For example, both Jensen Ross Ackles and Jared Tristan Padalecki were born in Texas, although Jensen was born in Dallas and Jared in San Antonio.
That is true. And live there now.
And live there now, no less. Again, the similarities continue. They're both very tall men, Jensen being 6'1". Oh, and do you know how tall Jared is? 6'4".
6'4".
And of course, that would be 1.93 meters for our non-American listeners.
Of course.
Both men claim English, German, and Scottish heritage, although Jared also purports to be of Polish and French descent, whereas Jensen does not. They each have a brother and a sister, so again, an awful lot of shared trivia between these two men. Very easy to confuse them if you don't know them as well as I do.
Yes.
And complicating it even more is that Jared Tristan Padalecki, of course, once played a Dean Forrester on Gilmore Girls.
That is so true. Indeed, he did. And they visit the set on Supernatural and they make a joke about it, which is cute.
Well, that is a little bit of trivia that I must confess I did not know.
How dare you?
Unlike the differences between these two men. Yeah, we spoke a little bit about whether or not an antique store would actually sell a haunted a haunted mulcher.
Yes.
And in that vein, I can't think of many examples that have a haunted curio, anything like this one. Now that I say that out loud, I guess The Mangler. It is a adaptation of a Stephen King story, I believe, that stars Robert Englund.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever seen that or even heard of it?
Uh-uh.
I've heard of it, obviously, have not seen it. But I was going to ask you, just for fun, this isn't a very deep rabbit hole, but in this vein of horror, have you ever seen The Lawnmower Man?
I have not.
Okay, more just curiosity. Also based on a Stephen King story, although the two have absolutely nothing in common with each other. And although The Lawnmower Man does technically have a lawnmower, that is really the only thing that the movie has to do with yard work.
Uh-huh.
Well then, let's go ahead and move on to our discussion of the actors.
Okay.
I want to do things a little bit differently this time.
Oh boy.
This time, when I was looking into the cast, instead of just noting a couple prominent projects that they've worked on, I went deep on this one, Hill Street.
Oh yeah? Do tell.
I really went down the rabbit hole, and I'm going to list a lot of other projects that these actors were involved in. They're not always huge roles. I'm not going to differentiate. I'm not going to give these in really any particular order. Some will be newer projects, some will be older projects. Sometimes they really just had bit parts. Sometimes they might have been prominent. They might have done one episode of a show. They might have done many episodes of a show. And I'll note a few exceptions, but I'm not going to get too formal with this. Let's keep it cash.
Let's.
But I'm going to go through these lists, and as we do it, we can talk about the performers themselves, of course, and their role in Friday the 13th, the series, and what we thought of them.
Okay.
But as I list these projects, what I'd like you to do is tell me if you've heard of it, and if you have heard of it, if you've seen it.
Lay it on me.
I chose these titles mostly because they're things I've heard of. They're probably things a lot of our listeners have heard of. And it surprised me just how many of them there were, first of all. And second of all, looking at the titles, I started to see patterns where there are none. And I started to become interested in reverse engineering to figure out which productions were probably shot up in Canada, because you start seeing some of the same projects over and over again. And so now I'm thinking, oh, those were probably filmed up in Canada then with these Canadian actors. Let's start with Adrian, the character I refer to as Paisan. He is played by Enrico Colantoni, so an actual Paisan. Enrico is the quintessential that guy. I almost guarantee you've seen him in something.
I actually have. The second he came, sorry to interrupt you, I just have to say this. When he came on...
Oh, wow. You actually know him.
I know him. A few months ago, one of my very good friends... Sorry. Cut that out, actually. I don't want to say her name on this because her name is so distinct that you can find her like right away. She's one of the only people with that name. Cut that out. I do know him because one of my very good friends told me to watch Veronica Mars.
Yep.
Even though it's a really old show, so I started watching it.
Veronica Mars. It's on my list.
Yep. He's the dad from Veronica Mars. So instantly I was like, is that the dad from Veronica Mars? Because I love him on Veronica Mars. I think he's great. He's my favorite person on the show. So I knew who he was right away.
So you just saw him and instantly recognized him?
Yes.
Despite the fact that he's like 25, 30 years younger or something like that?
Well, I was like, I saw him and I was like, I'm 99% sure that's him, but let me look. So I went to IMDb, scrolled all the way down on his page, and this was his second credit.
Yep, sure is.
Yeah. So I was like, yep, that's him. I didn't like look through the other stuff that he'd done, but I just had to know if it was him because I was pretty positive it was, and indeed it was.
Yeah, and I'm going to walk back what I just said. 20 to 30 is way too many years. Veronica Mars, do you know when that started? Was that around the 2000s?
Like 2004 or 5 maybe.
And you only recently started watching Veronica Mars of all things.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, well, you nailed that one, and I recognized him from a show called Just Shoot Me, which I never actually watched, but it was often on when I was in the room, and I noticed it because it had David Spade. Pretty sure that's how I knew him, although I will concede I did not recognize him. But once I started looking at his profile and his credits, I'm like, yep, classic that guy. I know this guy from 1,000 things.
Yeah, that's funny.
You might not know his name, but you know his work. Going down the list, some other projects of his include Galaxy Quest, Contagion, Veronica Mars, of course, and Just Shoot Me. AI, Artificial Intelligence. Apparently that's the full title. That seems incredibly clunky for a film made by both Spielberg and Kubrick. I don't know why it's not just AI or Artificial Intelligence, but that is apparently the proper name for it, and that strikes me as real weird. Total aside. Westworld, iZombie. Have you seen any iZombie?
Oh, yeah. I watched probably 6 or 7 episodes of that several years ago.
I don't know how many episodes he popped up in, but you don't remember him from that?
I don't.
Maybe you didn't get to his episodes. Madam Secretary, Justice League Dark, Person of Interest, Bones. I actually worked on that show. Warehouse 13. That's a show that actually could be a follow-up to this if we wanted to keep going once Friday the 13th, the series is done. That's that sci-fi show. I think I mentioned it to you.
Oh, yes, you did. Sorry. I didn't know you were waiting for a response. Yes, you did.
Yeah, I didn't know I was waiting either. I kind of left that one. I kind of left that one hanging. I admit that. Party Down. Might talk about that show as a curio at some point. That's a fun little novelty. Kind of a deep cut. Monk. Did you ever see Monk?
Yes, my dad used to watch it.
Actually worked on that as well. Third Rock from the Sun.
Yep, I know that one.
Albino Alligator. And this is a weird deep cut for me because back in the 90s when I was getting into independent film, and independent film was becoming a thing, that is Kevin Spacey's directorial debut, I believe.
Huh. Okay.
So I picked it up on DVD or maybe even VHS back when that came out and watched that. And then oddly enough, when I got to college and took a film class, I saw the original version of that from the 50s, I think. Kind of one that's popped up a few times in my life. So I was kind of fascinated to see that he was in that, given that it's an incredibly small movie. It's essentially a hostage situation in a bar.
Interesting.
And then just to round it out, NYPD Blue, Money Train, Law and Order, because every actor that's ever lived has been on Law and Order.
Yep.
New York Undercover.
Law and Order, Grey's Anatomy, Supernatural. A lot of people have been on those.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of overlap there, definitely. And then I guess he's even been involved with Shark Week either something that just came out or something that will be coming out soon. So,
Interesting.
yeah, that man works. Quite the career.
Yeah.
And still working, obviously. So, yeah, great to see him.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can agree. Great actor.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I like him a lot.
And good in this,
Yep.
despite the ridiculousness of what he had to do.
Yeah.
We've got the actor that played Smitty. That was Paisan's older partner.
Uh-huh.
Smitty was played... Oh, I'm sorry. Did you signal me?
No, he looked familiar to me, so I'm going to be surprised if I don't know him.
And just to be clear, I'm not listing, unfortunately, every role that these actors have had.
Right. And that would take forever.
Yeah, a lot of these are working TV actors that have like 200, like literally 200 credits on IMDb, some of them stretching back decades. So
Yeah.
these lists might seem long and exhaustive, but actually most of them are substantially longer.
Yeah.
Smitty was played by Jack Mather, or Mather, I'm not sure. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he did live to be 90.
Holy shit.
So good for him.
That's pretty good.
He is not the longest lived member of this cast. We'll get there.
Nice.
That's another weird pattern that developed with this that I found interesting. He actually popped up in Billy Madison,
Haven't seen
Michael Moore's movie, Canadian Bacon.
Okay.
Oh, you've never seen Billy Madison?
I haven't seen it. I know it, but I haven't actually seen it.
I could see that. I'm not actually sure you would like it, to be honest.
Yeah. Probably not.
He was in that Anne of Green Gables that I mentioned.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
good friend in elementary school had already seen and was so bummed out we were watching it. I think he honestly we rather learned something, which is really saying something.
Yeah.
And The Littlest Hobo. Yep, we're going to see some more of that.
Okay.
So then we've got Amanda Harrington.
Opera glasses.
Yes, that's the character I referred to as Opera Glasses. Great memory. So the actress is Kay Tremblay, possibly.
Tremblay.
And she lived to be 91.
Good for her.
And of all things, she voiced a character in the X-Men the Animated Series back in 97, which now, this year, is coming back to TV, believe it or not.
Wow. Will she be back? Just kidding.
Too soon. She voiced Shard, Annalee, and Shard Bishop, so some minor characters. She was also involved with the Stephen King miniseries Storm of the Century.
Oh my god. I fucking love that. It's one of my favorite miniseries ever. Sorry.
Oh, wow. We'll have to discuss that. I've actually never seen it.
Dude, you need to see it. It's so good.
That could be a side project for us. Maybe we'll do some special episodes at some point.
It's so good. I knew I recognized her. I knew I'd seen her in something, so that must be what it was.
And you know who else is in Storm of the Century?
Who?
Eddie from Cupid's Quiver, our creeper.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the actor Dennis Forrest.
Okay.
And they're not it. We're actually going to see Storm of the Century again on this list.
Interesting.
Don't you worry.
Good. I was worried.
We're also going to get to a couple of these that are just going to blow your mind. So hang in there because it's going to get real exciting here.
Okay.
I thought she was a bit intense for such a small role, but she kept it interesting. I'll give her that.
Mm-hmm.
She was not boring.
She was a bit intense, but yeah, I would rather someone be entertaining than bland, so I'll give that to her.
Exactly. Keep it interesting, Canada. Keep it interesting.
Yeah.
And Jack Mather was also delightful.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Lovable older gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
There was Harley O'Connor. He was the first kill that opened the episode, and then later we see him in the madhouse, a performance I particularly enjoyed. I thought he brought a lot of nuance and level to that scene.
Yeah.
Played a lot of variety for a madman.
Right.
Harley O'Connor, played by Thomas Hauf, Hauf. And as far as I can tell, he seems to still be working, and in fact worked on such project as The Boys.
Wow.
Yeah. Molly's Game, The Handmaid's Tale, Queer as Folk, and The Littlest Hobo.
Hey! I will never get over that name. I just can't. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre.
Even if it's not part of the podcast, we're going to watch some episodes of that at some point, Hill Street.
Good.
It'll cure what ails you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have his victim, Mrs. O'Connor, played by Rita Tuckett, who lived to be 96 years old.
Good for her.
Incredible.
You go, girl.
And she was in such projects as the movie Pushing Tin, Storm of the Century,
Hey!
and have you ever seen any of the Police Academy movies?
Mm-mm.
She was in the third one.
Well, there you go.
Roll up your sleeves, Hill Street, because we have the man himself, the gentleman of the hour, Barclay Hope, playing Lloyd.
Who's Lloyd?
Vicky's fiance.
Thank you.
Did you just phone a friend?
Who's Lloyd? Well, I was thinking of the people, like the side characters, not the main people.
Actually, no, that's perfect because, believe it or not, I did the exact same thing when I saw that name on my own list after not looking at it for like a week. I was like, Lloyd. Oh, that must have been the friend of Opera Glasses or business partner of Opera Glasses. And then
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, obviously Lloyd, whom I have to say I know you accused me of like throwing him under the bus, but no, I thought he was incredible in this episode. I thought he had seriously like soap opera heartthrob looks in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that didn't quite click was I think he looked best in the dark scenes when you couldn't see quite how curly his hair is. But other than that, I thought he looked great. I thought he gave a great performance.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just all around a million times better than when he appeared in episode 1.
Right.
I thought the character was written better too, and maybe that helped give him something to sink his teeth into. He was written less one-dimensional.
Yeah. Maybe he spent the last year training.
Yep, also possible. But a fine actor, good-looking dude, and still working today, as far as I can tell, and has been in such projects as, and I know you're going to recognize a few of these, Paycheck, Tooth Fairy, Final Destination 5. Any chance you've seen that one?
Probably. I know I saw at least the first 3. I don't know if I saw 5. What's the big death scene at the beginning?
Oh, I have no idea. I've only ever seen the first Final Destination film.
How dare you?
Are you a fan of that series? You haven't seen 5, I know.
I think they're fun.
They are. How many have you seen?
How many have I seen of the Final Destinations?
Yeah.
At least the first 3, maybe more. If it's on, like, I'll watch it. I think they're entertaining. They do make you paranoid, though. They'll make you paranoid. Like, I'll be, like, following a truck with, like, you know.
I was going to say, if you're ever following a lumber truck, you slow down a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah, I get out of that lane. Absolutely. I'm like, no, sir. Or, like, if I, like, see, like, a loose screw on something, I'm like, that could unscrew and that could swing and that could fall and that could hit me in the head. No, ma'am. I'm screwing that back in. Yeah, they make you paranoid as hell.
I'm not getting this spring chicken.
You see a little water on the floor, you're like, I could slip on that. I could fall, hit my head back on that thing.
But they didn't get you, Hill Street.
Nope, not yet. Don't jinx it. See? Look what you did.
You've avoided the sex trafficker's net this long.
Oh my God. Remember when I was on that kick for a while? Just for everyone listening.
Yeah, that's where that came from.
I was like watching a lot of documentaries and reading up a lot on sex trafficking, and I was convinced everyone was sex trafficking me all the time. Like, I was so paranoid. I literally went into a gas station once, and there was just the attendant behind the counter and a man shopping, and the attendant like nodded to the guy in the store, and they both looked at me, and I was like, I'm being sex trafficked. I have to leave here. Like, I was crazy.
Sex trafficked. Sex trafficking is a verb. Yes. I've been sex trafficked. Gave it a past tense. Anyway. Delightful. But they didn't get you. That's the important thing.
No, and they ain't gonna, because I'm aware.
Oh, yeah. Sex trafficking. It's normally a noun. You turned it into a verb.
Sex trafficked.
So getting into the meat of it, have you seen Riverdale?
Yes. I saw the first 2 seasons.
Well, he was in a whopping 29 episodes.
Who are we talking about again? Larry? Lloyd? Sorry, Lloyd.
Lloyd, yeah.
Poor Lloyd.
Barclay Hope. I know. I feel so bad for the guy. Even I spoke ill of him in the first episode.
I know. Okay, now I need to look this. What's his real name?
Barclay Hope.
Barclay. I gotta look this up and see if I can.
Barclay. Barclay Hope.
Riverdale.
29 episodes of Riverdale.
Holy shnikes. Yes, I do recognize him from Riverdale. He got old.
Nice. Tommy Boy reference.
He got old. Yeah, he was the redheaded chick's dad. Whatever her name is on the show. I don't remember. But yeah. Yep. I remember him on there.
Did you like him on there?
It's been too long since I've seen it to really assess his performance. I feel like he was kind of weird, but maybe he did a good job. I don't know. I watched that show probably 5 or 6 years ago, so I don't remember what I thought of him.
Yep, totally fair. He was in Resident Alien.
Okay.
And maybe still is, because I think that show is coming back for one more season. The Good Doctor. Prison Break.
I've heard of all of these.
Okay, yeah. Just throw that out there again if you've heard of it. Yeah, okay. Good Doctor, Prison Break, Wayward Pines.
Don't know that one.
The Shyamalan TV show.
Okay.
Shyamalan produced it. Again, iZombie. Thinking a Canadian production.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He was in 2 episodes of a little show known as Supernatural.
Hey, good for him. He's done a lot.
Yeah, so you've definitely seen him.
Mm-hmm.
He was in The Killing.
I like that show.
Oh, yeah, I need to check that out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a show called Eureka, which actually kind of, I think, like Warehouse 13.
Mm-hmm.
Could be another one we could check out. Kind of a sci-fi comedy, I think, about a strange town in the Pacific Northwest. He was in Fringe, also keeping with that same vein.
Mm-hmm.
He was in 3 episodes of Smallville.
Hey!
He was in Stargate SG-1, The L Word, Battlestar Galactica, the new one, I believe. Alfred Hitchcock Presents. This is the version from the late 80s. And then The Twilight Zone, late 80s version. Now, I'm not expecting you would know those.
Oh, yeah. I pretty much know almost everything you listed.
Okay. Yeah, the man works and still is.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, this one's particularly interesting. These last two are interesting because they were such small roles in this episode. But we have the O'Connor's neighbor. He was the interloper in my script, but he's that big guy that shows up with a crowbar and almost brains Jack and Mickey when they discover, I think, a $5 bill in the shack.
Mm-hmm.
He gives them the exposition about what happened to Harley after the murder.
Okay.
So a very small role, but it turns out his name is George Butza, or Buza, possibly, B-U-Z-A, so possibly another Paisan. And also still working, and we'll get to why in a second. But he has an interesting career, including Diary of the Dead, the 2000 X-Men film, La Femme Nikita, another show I'm now guessing was shot in Canada, because we'll see that come up again and again. He voiced Colossus in the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 video game, and that's going to tie into another credit here in a second. Since that was, I think, uncredited, I would suspect he probably also voiced Colossus in the first Marvel vs. Capcom, but I could be wrong on that. But in the X-Men animated series from '97, he voiced Beast / Dr. Hank McCoy. And because that's such a pivotal character, he's working in the remake today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's kind of stunning.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And I wouldn't have guessed from his voice. I wouldn't say he has such a distinct voice. You immediately pick it up no matter where you hear it.
Right.
A good voice, but not that distinct. But yeah, voiced Beast. And they brought him back to continue voicing Beast all these years later.
That's pretty amazing.
And then kind of in that vein, he worked on Spider-Man, the animated series, because he appeared for 2 episodes as Beast. And then he actually worked on both Kung Fu: The Legend Continues and the original Kung Fu. It's one of, if not his first credit.
Interesting.
So that is really going back.
Yeah.
And then he worked on 65 episodes of that Maniac Mansion TV show I've told you about. So a substantial portion of that run. Might have to check that out at some point. And then the new Twilight Zone, the new Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Then this one was very interesting to me. Both the Star Wars droids and Star Wars Ewoks cartoons from the 80s, which I find delightful.
You gotta start somewhere.
Exactly. And then finally, of course, say it with me, Hill Street, the littlest hobo.
The littlest hobo.
Close enough. I'll count it.
We did not go at the same pace, but that's okay.
Blame Discord for that one. And then lastly, our vagrant dude who gets mulched in the park. Paisan's first kill. This is Dominic Kutsokrea. He probably doesn't pronounce it as Italian as that. I wouldn't be surprised. Probably also yet another Paisan. So I don't think I was wildly off base when I suggested they could be brothers. As far as I can tell, probably still working and has been in such shows as The Umbrella Academy, What We Do in the Shadows. Have you seen either of those?
I've seen a lot of What We Do in the Shadows. I've probably seen 2 seasons maybe.
Oh yeah, how do you like that?
I enjoy it. I mean, I can't get super invested in any sitcom because I'm a huge drama person, but I enjoy it casually. I think it's entertaining and cute.
Cool. I'll have to check that out eventually.
Yeah. What was
It's
the
on my
first?
list.
Yeah, I think you'd really like it.
Umbrella. I like the movie a lot.
Yeah.
I think the movie's great. I just haven't gotten to the series yet. The Umbrella Academy.
Oh, I've heard great things. I haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, I've heard really good things too. And I read the first trade of the comic series it's based on.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was based on that, but that makes sense.
He was in Cinderella Man, Queer as Folk, again, La Femme Nikita, Tech War, which that one's a no-brainer. Shatner's Canadian. That was his show. So William Shatner, that is. He created it. And I believe produced it. So Tech War, that makes sense. That would be up in Canada. Again, Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. Again, Maniac Mansion. And again, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, the new one from the 80s.
Wow.
So yeah, interesting overlap how some of these actors appeared in these same shows.
Yeah.
We see the same ones popping up again and again. Kind of fun.
Good for them out there hustling, making it work.
Exactly. I don't know what it was about this list and these credits, but I just went down a rabbit hole and was kind of fascinated by them.
You really did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really did.
Just to wrap things up, one thing we didn't get to last time because I derailed us by mixing up Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki. When that happened, we were discussing the filmography of Patricia Hamilton, who played Sadie in the boxing episode. That was Manny's wife. She had that one scene, and we both commented on really liking her. What derailed us was when I brought up the My Bloody Valentine remake from 2009 with Jensen Ackles, because Jared Padalecki was in Friday the 13th. Have you ever seen either the My Bloody Valentine remake or the original?
I've seen both.
Oh, really?
You think Jensen Ackles was in a movie and I didn't see it?
Fair.
I went and saw it the day it came out.
Copy that. So you saw it in 3D?
Yes, I did.
As did I. I guess I don't have to ask then which one you liked better?
No, you do not. But they're both very average at best.
Oh, Throwing some shade.
I love Jensen. I think he's great. I didn't think that was a great movie. I didn't think that was his best performance by any means. I would love him to be in more movies. I think he needs a better movie.
Yeah. Can't always pick the best projects.
Yeah. And it was just one of the only movies he's been offered.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at that point in their careers, and honestly, even now, they haven't done a ton of film, have they?
Mm-mm.
They both tried to branch out with a horror film, and then that didn't really lead to much, did it?
Mm-mm. Yeah. It's really too bad because that was like their chance to make it on film. Thomas.
Oh no.
What's happening in my brain? I'm sorry. I'm so tired.
You cast so many stones this direction. So many stones.
Jared and Jensen.
Are you having trouble remembering their names?
I know. Jared and Jensen. That was their... No, I'm not. Shut your face. Jared and Jensen, that was their chance to really prove themselves and get offered stuff, but they had bad movies, so it didn't lead anywhere, which is disappointing.
Welcome to the industry.
I know. My dad felt that Jared actually outshone Jensen on film.
You must be tired.
I know. I'm struggling.
I'm going to let you off the hook. I'm going to stop teasing you.
I disagreed with my
I don't want to
dad's
say
opinion.
anything I can't take back.
Oh.
Okay, so just to clarify, you thought that Jensen was better in My Bloody Valentine than Jared was in Friday the 13th, or the other way around?
No, my dad thought that Jared showed up better on film than Jensen did.
Okay.
But we both feel that Jensen's better on the TV show, but he thought on film Jared read better. But I just think you can't even tell because the movies were just so crappy.
I'm sorry, is that a reference to performance or charisma or literally looking better or some combination thereof?
Looking better, and he just thought that the performance was just stronger. He didn't think that Jensen translated as well to film. But I don't know that you can tell that. And as far as what exactly my dad meant, I have no idea at this point. That was so long ago when he told me that. I just remember him saying that he didn't feel like Jensen read well on film.
Fair.
Probably looks and performance.
I wonder if he's seen him play Soldier Boy on The Boys.
He hasn't. He didn't like The Boys. He only tried an episode or two and didn't like it.
I'm stunned he even checked it out in the first place. I guess I don't know the man's tastes, but I can't imagine that being his cup of tea.
I know. But it is not. Way too much for him. I would love to see them both do a film again, and I would like to see them in really good roles.
Well, you know, they're still relatively young men. Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
They've got time.
That's right. I agree.
Maybe start doing some small indie projects or something.
Even like comedies would suit them well.
Interesting.
They're funny. They're funny, charismatic guys.
Okay. Yeah, you've seen them live.
As have you.
No, the day I was there, they weren't there, right?
You're right. Yeah, forgot.
I didn't spring for the silver package, Hill Street.
Loser.
My mistake. Clearly, I rue the day.
Yeah.
I did not spring for the silver package.
As you should.
If you like the horror genre as much as we do, you can preview the horror comic book Requiem for a Psychopath right now for free at the Inner Demon Entertainment website. Imagine a world in which horror film slashers are real. Then imagine a troubled teen bringing one out of retirement to help him take revenge on his bullies. It was written by me and drawn by friend of the show, Stephen Yu. Again, that's Requiem for a Psychopath on the Inner Demon Entertainment website. And, if you dig it, please either review and rate it 5 stars on Amazon, or don't rate and review it at all. Ratings of less than 5 stars send the algorithm into murder mode for some reason. Thanks. I hope you enjoy it.
This episode in particular, it occurred to me that this seemed like a prime case of the kind of television that a child stumbles across accidentally and is terrified by. Because it begins so innocuously. It's flat, it's brightly lit, it's this shot of suburbia. It seems perfectly safe when it begins. As I recall, not even the music is particularly threatening. And then within seconds of the show starting, right to face, old woman in mulcher. And it just hits you out of nowhere.
Yeah. Okay.
And the show is full of that. Like, I know I comment a lot on being surprised by what they got away with. And yeah, I'm sure this mostly aired at like 1 or 2 a.m. It just got me thinking, what other programs did you stumble across as a kid that you weren't quite ready for that scared the hell out of you?
I have like a really, really inappropriate answer for this, though.
Interesting.
It's like the first thing that came to my mind. So I'm just going to say it, and then maybe you can edit it out, and then I'll try to think of something else. But I'm just going to tell you this first.
Okay, Ray, are you going to call upon the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man on us?
No. I wish that's where my mind went.
What was the first thing that came to your mind?
So the first thing that came to my mind, because I like remember this, it's probably too inappropriate to put on the podcast, but I was like I like turned on the TV at home one time when I was really little, and there was like a group of like 3 or 4 people, and they were like, they were like dancing and talking to each other, and I didn't know what it was, and I was watching it, and then this guy got out like saran wrap or something, no, plastic wrap, and he started like plastic wrapping himself, and he did it over his face too, and then the girl like eventually like cut open the mouth part so he could breathe, and then all of a sudden he was naked, and he had like plastic wrapped over his thing, and the girl like cut that open too, and it was porn, and I didn't know it, and I was like so confused what was going on, and I was like probably 5 or so. I was really, really little, and my sister ran in and was like and like turned it off and told on my mom to me. My mom was mad, and I was literally like, I didn't even know what this was. I just distinctly remember the plastic wrap, and then the girl like,
I don't know what this is.
What?
This doesn't sound like any. I don't know what this is. This doesn't sound like any porn I've ever heard of.
I know, it was so bizarre. I will forever have the image of her like ripping the plastic open and like his penis coming out of it, and like my sister like yelling at me, and I was like, I don't even know what's happening. I thought it was like a fun, like, I don't know what I thought I was watching, but I didn't even know what porn was. But yeah, that was the first thing that came to my mind when you said. Sorry to all of our listeners. They're so confused right now.
No, it's perfectly fine, and we'll include it. But the question was about something that terrified you. It sounds like you have fond memories of this.
It did terrify me. It terrified me when his penis came out of that plastic wrap. I was like, my eyes. But yeah, no, okay, something that terrified me. I'm sorry, it was the first thing that came to my mind. It haunts me.
You're an open book. We appreciate it.
Something that terrified me when I didn't expect it. Oh, well, to be honest, I watched a lot of scary stuff when I was little, and I was usually prepared for it. But I remember I was watching this, like, my parents were watching the Super Bowl, and there was a commercial of The Exorcist, and it showed Reagan, like, spinning her head and throwing up, and I started crying immediately. And I slept in my parents' room for, like, a week after that. So that sticks in my brain.
I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm disappointed.
No, not at all. You changed channels in the middle of the Super Bowl and you landed on The Exorcist?
No, it was showing clips of different movies.
Oh, different famous scenes.
And one of the clips
was the famous pea soup vomit scene.
Yeah, and it just terrified me. Yeah, and I was like crying, and my mom was like, "Oh no, it's okay," you know, and that just, to this day, as dated as it is, think The Exorcist is scary.
It's a minor point, but have you seen both versions, the director's cut and the original?
Yes.
Theatrical? Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference? Or?
I think the theatrical is probably better.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect example. You're just innocently watching the Super Bowl, and then boom, Exorcist.
Mm-hmm. I remember it like it was yesterday, too.
Yeah, that is stunning.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense of what year that would have been?
I lived in Massachusetts, so I must have been at least 6.
Yeah, it sounds right. I just feel like they would not do that these days.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Wow, that's interesting.
But yeah, scared the crap out of me. And I can like remember what my parents were wearing. Like I can picture the whole scene very vividly because it scared me so bad.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
When I was young, I used to watch a show called Quantum Leap, meaning the original. They've since remade it. In fact, I think it's still airing now. But we used to watch the original. It was always on at a certain time slot. And then one week, it just wasn't. And instead, I think it was this version of War of the Worlds that started playing, which seems pretty innocuous.
Uh-huh.
But in the recap from previous episodes, I don't even think it was part of the show proper, but in the recap, all of a sudden, either something burst out of someone's chest or a tentacle like shot into someone's chest or stomach, and it was bloody too. It was probably the imagery itself, but also just I wasn't ready for it, and it wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, I knew it wasn't Quantum Leap, it was something else, but I was like, oh, sci-fi and aliens. Oh, that looks like fun. And then like, blah, guy's chest explodes and blood shoots out, and I was like, wasn't expecting that.
That's funny.
So yeah, caught me unawares, and it was a little more than I wanted. I'm like, oh, nope, hard pass.
Did you cry?
No, I didn't cry, but I turned it off. I was like, nope, not watching that. That's not fun, aliens. Similarly, and this is a little different but related, it was the 80s, so I was super excited about Ninja.
Naturally.
As was everyone at the time.
Sure.
Folks let me rent a Ninja movie from the video store, and I bring it home and pop it in. And within seconds, we open on a nice, well-lit, very spacious, beautiful Japanese garden with a nice lady in a kimono walking through it with her little child. And a bunch of ninja pop out and cut her to pieces. I was like, that's not fun. And like, yeah, in my mind, I've since rewatched it, and it's not nearly as graphic as I pictured as a kid, in part simply just because I can tell now they didn't have the budget for the gory effects that I remember.
Yep.
I remember the sword like cutting her belly, basically cutting her in two at the torso and like intestines spilling out. And they didn't have the budget for all that. It just got bloody, and that was about it.
Yeah.
I find it interesting to speculate on. I don't think it was like the blood or even the violence itself. I think even as a kid, what might have gotten me was it was such a peaceful scene. It seemed so safe. It was this mother and child. And then these ninja jump out and just tear her apart. And there was nothing fun about it. It's not fun when I rewatched it, for that matter. And I guess it's not supposed to be fair. It's supposed to be a little grindhousey, I think, because, again, 80s.
Yeah.
But it's the idea that, like, oh, this seems like such a safe place, and then it turns violent so quickly. I think that probably added to it. Like, if it had been two ninja fighting and, like, stabbing each other and, like, maybe even, like, a limb getting cut off, I don't know if it would have bothered me, even if it was kind of gory. But the fact that it was just this nice lady and her kid that just get hacked to pieces within seconds.
Yeah.
It was just a little too much.
I get that, because when I saw the newly made It movie, not the original, the new one, when Pennywise comes out and like rips the kid's arm off, and the kid's like trying to crawl away with his little bloody stump, and then he gets dragged back into the sewer, I was like, that was a little too graphic for me. This coming from a person who watches horror and gory stuff all the time. I did not like the image of this tiny little like 5-year-old child trying desperately to crawl away with his ripped off arm. That was like too much for me. My brain did not like that.
Right. It's also the time you spend on it. If you just gotten attacked real quick, sucked into the sewer in like a heartbeat, and then you saw a bloody arm, be like, okay, bloody arm.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Like, I don't think I was ever like freaked out by the severed bloody arm in Star Wars. I'm referring to A New Hope, Episode 4, but back when it was just called Star Wars, and back when it had that in it, it might not now. It might have been removed since. I'm not actually sure. But when it originally aired, there was a bloody severed arm in the cantina scene. And it was a little creepy, but like I don't think it really bothered me. Even when I saw it in the context of Obi-Wan cutting the arm off.
Yeah.
Because I guess I knew it was maybe justified and that he was a bad guy. But something about that ninja thing, it just seemed so wanton and unnecessary and cruel.
Yeah, exactly. Watching something suffer like that and trying to like get away is like, ugh. Too much.
Any other examples pop to mind, or is that pretty much it?
I think those are the ones that are standing out to me right now. I mean, I could go way back. I remember being like 3 and watching The Little Mermaid, and when Ursula, the lights go out and you can just see her glowing eyes and she does an evil laugh. Every time that came on, my mom had to sit with me, and I would like hide in her because it scared me. But I mean, that wasn't like, I knew that scene was coming every time. So there are like little parts from childhood that stick out to me, but the most distinct one.
Yeah, we could do a whole spin-off of Disney films.
Definitely, yeah.
Unexpected Disney scares.
Yes.
Back when you could put scary moments in Disney films.
Right, exactly. Totally. But the one that sticks out to me the most is like just totally catching me off guard in the middle of something innocent was that freaking Exorcist pop up in the middle of a commercial during the Super Bowl. I was like, ah! So, yeah.
Yeah, these days the closest they would probably get would be like a moment from Jaws, but I don't think they'd go full Exorcist.
Yeah, no way.
It's mostly going to be flashbacks of Indiana Jones running from the boulder and Marty McFly and the DeLorean.
Yeah, can never go full Exorcist now.
In fact, we could also pivot and you could just tell me about other instances of stumbling across porn that surprised you.
God, that was just so... I remember like my sister being like, so like, and I was like, what? What's happening? I was just perplexed.
Copy that, and with good cause.
Yes, I'm perplexed to this day.
Breaking news. While editing this very episode, I happened to be watching the comic book YouTube channel Pros and Cons, on which creator Jim Mahfood not only talks about the ninja film I referenced earlier, not only about seeing it too young, but specifically about being freaked out by the intensity of the opening scene. The channel's host, Chris, is also quick to point out that a 10-year-old kid takes a throwing star to the head. So yeah, a pretty grim opening for your fun ninja film. In case you were wondering, the movie is Revenge of the Ninja, and Jim talks about that scene 7 minutes and 15 seconds into the episode. And if you're into comics but don't already follow Chris's 2 channels, Pros and Cons and Comic Tropes, give them a look today. The man does great work. Thanks for listening, everyone. We know you have a lot of choices when choosing a Friday the 13th The Series podcast, and we sincerely thank you for choosing ours. I just realized Jason has to walk all the way to Canada from Crystal Lake, so I'm sure he'll arrive any day now. Special thanks to Joshua Romeo for original music and to Stephen Yu for original art.
And be sure to check out the Joe on Joe podcast, the only podcast where Joe Slepsky discusses G.I. Joe.
If you want to support our show, you can leave a review and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. If you want an occasional update on our projects, you can sign up for our newsletter at the Inner Demon Entertainment website. And if you want to know exactly how behind schedule our latest episode will be, you can find social media links on our website. Be here next episode if you've always wanted to see a haunted comic book story in which the big shot editor was just a chill, well-meaning dude, and the Jack Kirby stand-in was a cold-hearted psychopath. Take care until then, and always remember what Carl said to Frylock. It don't matter. None of this matters. Good night, everybody.